You have an engineering background, you worked on real projects, maybe even led teams, and now you are moving to Canada. Or you might already have reached this country thinking, where do I fit in? But here's what no one tells you clearly enough. Being an engineer in Canada does not start with your degree. It starts with getting licensed. So in this video, let's talk about the real journey for internationally trained engineers. What you need to know, what no one warns you about, and how to actually move forward without losing years of your career. So let's get something straight first. In Canada, the title engineer is super protected. You can't call yourself an engineer unless you are licensed or you're supervised by someone who is. And that means even if you have 10 years experience as a mechanical engineer back home, even if you have managed $1 million projects, or you still can't legally sign off or lead engineering work unless you are certified by the provincial regulatory. This comes as a super surprise for many newcomers because back home, your work was enough. You had your degrees, but here your title is tied to licensing and not just education or your experience. Each province has its own engineering regulatory body. For example, PEO in Ontario, EGBC in British Columbia, and ABEGA Alberta, and Engineers Nova Scotia, and so on. So these bodies assess your qualifications and decide if you are eligible to become a professional engineer. And to qualify for this, you basically need an accredited engineering degree or an equivalency certificate from back home, and your work experience typically ranging from 48 months, including 12 months in Canada, under a professional engineer, and a written professional practice exam, and of course, language proficiency, which is mandatory for most of the programs courses in Canada. And this entire process takes up to 2 to 4 years, and sometimes even more. And do you know one of the hardest parts here? Even after years of hands on experience, foreign trained engineers often get told, you don't have Canadian experience. We need someone familiar with local course, or we would like to see more industry exposure here. It's frustrating, right? And you know how to build, how to solve problems, but suddenly you're being asked to prove it all over again. And for many, that leads to underemployment and roles like technician, CAD assistant, or project coordinator just to get a foot in the door. It sounds fair, but it is common practice here in Canada for that matter. So, if licensing takes time, what can you do in the meantime? Here's what many engineers choose. They try to work under a professional engineer. You can still work in engineering teams as long as you are supervised by someone who is qualified and licensed. And this helps with your required Canadian experience, hours that are required for licensing, and explore related roles like project controls or QA or QC roles, or estimators or BIM specialist roles that don't always require a license. And these are great for building local credibility, right? Take a bridging program. Some provinces offer programs that help international trained engineers get credential faster than regular timelines. And they may include mentorship, technical refreshers, or even co ops. And keep documentation, every project, every reference, every detail you can gather, because regulators will ask for you all those details eventually. And the goal here is not to give up on engineering, it isn't to stay close to it while the process runs its course. And here's something we don't talk about enough. You don't have to become a professional engineer to succeed. Yes, for certain roles like structural design, stamping drawings, or senior consulting, it's an essential requirement. But many engineers build careers in it, like construction management, tech or automation, or energy operations, or even product design and data analytics. And they grow without needing the title. So ask yourself, do you want a license for the job or for the identity? Both are valid, but knowing the difference can save you time and stress, of course. And we have to be honest here, the licensing system needs a reform as good as it is in healthcare because it's slow, it's confusing, and in many cases, it undervalues foreign trained professionals. But here's the truth I always come back to. You can build your path while pushing for change. You can upskill, you can network, you can stay informed, and not let the system define your worth. Yes, it might take 3 years, but those 3 years can either go into frustration or into building step by step your new engineering story in Canada. And if you're a foreign trained engineer thinking, I didn't expect this to be so complicated, you're not alone. But don't let the red tape erase what you have already done. You have built before and you are going to build again. It might take time, you might take a different road, but the skills you bring, the way you think, those things still matter. And eventually, whether through a license or not, they will find their place.